Now I'm delighted to introduce my colleague and dear friend, Jill Gentile. Jill is a psychologist, psychoanalyst, faculty at NYU postdoctoral program, where she co-chairs the independent track, and faculty and supervisor at the Institute for the Psychoanalytic Study of Subjectivity, which is where she and I met. She is on editorial boards of the International Journal of Psychoanalytic Self-Psychology and Contemporary Psychoanalysis, and these psychoanalytic affiliations reveal only a few of your diverse intellectual resources. Jill has published extensively on the phenomenological trajectory and semiotics of agency, desire, and symbolic life. Dedicated to the application of psychoanalysis to the democracy and the public sphere, tonight she invites us to join her passionate pursuit to celebrate her new book with Michael McCrone, entitled Feminine Law, Freud, Free Speech, and the Voice of Desire. So now Jill's going to give a short reading, and later at the end of our roundtable, she will again speak briefly.
You know, this mic thing. Yeah. It's a little awkward, right? I think I really do this one. Before I do, first of all, welcome everyone, and thank you so much for coming out here tonight. Really, I think many of you know this has been a book that's been many years in the making, and we'll talk more about that, but it's really a privilege and an honor to have you here and this incredible panel. Thank you. And of course, my collaborator, Michael McCrone. You know, we were going to show, before I do the reading, also, just some of you are standing. There's some open chairs up here, so please find your way to take a chair unless you're choosing to stand. Okay. We have I think, a photo of the book cover.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just wanted to, before the reading, let me put that up.
We're doing something first.
And then we can get rid of the screen. Many of you have commented on the beautiful cover, and I want to give credit to Thurina Rose, the illustrator who illustrated the cover. And then she took our various conceptions of what we wanted for the cover and took the most literal and created a pretty extraordinary illustration, which then Michael took into Photoshop, guided by, you can see we're not exactly humble in this room in terms of our ambitions. So we took privilege and decided to just go for it. Since here we are. Karnak, my publisher, not realizing what we were up to, changed the font at the last minute. So my name is in a different font than it had been. But the rest kind of worked. So since so many of you have commented on the cover, we wanted you to be able to fully appreciate that. And thank you, Michael, for his creative design. Okay, I'm going to do a reading now, but we can raise the screen so that these guys have a little bit more space. Does the screen just elevate magically? Is there such a thing as magical?
Are we screen up?
Screen up, yeah.
Get rid of the screen. I'm glad you know what she was talking about. I'm glad you know what she was talking about.
And I also wanted to thank Evan Malater, whose contributions were significant in the context of my working on this book. And his words of wisdom that started us off, I hope we can return to during the roundtable, along with Carol's just beautiful, beautiful comments. All right, clinical. I don't really know what to do with this. For many of us, the body will tenaciously... It's not gonna work. Okay. So tell me how this works. For many of us, the body will tenaciously resist before it will speak. As my patients fight to claim their desires and voices, their bodies protest, hurtling back against the door that's beginning to open onto interior space, blocked by embarrassment, fury, and shame. One woman tells me of her torn cuticles. A man tells me of his deformed penis. A woman tells me of intrusive herpes symptoms. The body emerges ingloriously, stripped of pride, discouraged. It is as if it were separating and dissociating from its own vitality, longing for phallic pride, but defeated. The mind announces its presence in a similarly dissociated way. At this stage of emergence, my patients are still very much in the throes of experiencing that they have no thoughts, have nothing to say, except perhaps by covering once more the redundant, restrictive terrain that they've often traveled and shared with me. But in tandem with having no thoughts, it appears that they are also revealing that they have no body that they can own. That is, the inability to free associate is correlated metaphorically and in actuality with an inability to own bodily desire. Some retreat into the silence of unmarked and unnamed territory, an abyss from which they cannot escape and into which they can't delve and explore, describing an experience characterized far more by mystifying confusion than by intriguing mystery. Others seek to skip a step, becoming preoccupied with the phallic signifier they are as yet unable to wield, predicated as it is on first claiming a sense of space, naming that void, noting the presence of absence, the unknown but present space that marks the entry to wonder and to knowledge. A child in my practice takes a sketch pad and sprawls out on the floor between us. He draws, not telling me his intentions, and erases so quickly that it's hard for me to decipher his sketches. I begin to glimpse a pattern as he becomes more brave, allowing the image to linger between us before he feels the need to erase. I wonder with him about the erasing. We talk about something missed, missing, expunged, about his agenda in negating his own intentions and communication. We talk about what's at stake. These conversations have the quality of musings, as if something's at stake. But also as if our musings about his erasing is what matters. Does he experience it as a requirement of mine, of his perfectionism, of his need to keep control over exposing his desire, of what it means to share and to trust? There's a space for him to erase, to modify, to decide to leave an indelible mark. Or is there? What becomes obvious to me is that he's dissatisfied with the images that he's drawing. A series of, well, perhaps mountains, perhaps breasts, concave and convex shapes that he seems to need to draw, even as he can't quite allow them to take up space on his page. Finally, he produces a series of quite lovely mountainous shapes. He doesn't erase them. The next session, he opens his sketch pad. He looks at his images, and he turns the page. He now has a new shape that he draws. Is it a triangle? It looks like the curvy, breast-shaped, rounded figure from before, but now it's pointy. It looks more like a jagged mountain. He erases. His next drawing is more elongated, a compressed mountainous shape with an edge somewhere between being pointy and rounded. He's delighted, giddy. He tells me he's drawn a rocket, a projectile that is so powerful it enters far into space. An adult male patient concedes that he feels like a fraud, an emperor with no clothes, acknowledging the limits of his faux phallic control. Throughout our work to date, he has sought to assert his dominance over me, but he now tells me he's shooting blanks, that he feels he can no longer have an impact this way. But at the same time, he's telling me of the silver lining that he now appreciates. That although they've been blanks, he's able to shoot and to begin to play with his power, even reveal his felt lack of power. He experiences an emergent sense of agency now, no longer a faux potency or defeated castration. Having located a yet not fully claimed, perhaps still partly demeaned, capacity for nothing, he's demonstrating the power of his mind to open space, to create meaning, and to begin to shoot something other than blanks. Without this capacity for nothing, we keep obscured not only the female metaphor, the vagina, but its powerful contribution to psychical life for both genders, for the transgendered. A woman in my practice mimes drawing a vase, a receptacle. She then talks about wanting to receive and to take. She tells me that her vagina exists. It's the first time that she has spoken the word between us, the space between us becoming more palpable, even as the space within her becomes more real. She tells me that she breathes more deeply these days. Soon she tells me more about her experience of vaginal interior space, that she's ready to receive a penis, that she desires impact, that she longs for an interpenetration of ideas and bodily communication, but that she has felt far too fragile and lacking in space before to desire this. She grows sad, pondering the losses that have accumulated for so many years in the fog, while she was unable to draw a boundary around her space, unable to claim her private property, and thus she had remained unable to participate in the give and take of intimate and shared verbal and physical intercourse in all its senses. A man with whom I have worked for years and who's insisted on making me his angel or mother now decides that his fantasies have cost him a real relationship with me. As long as I was cast in these roles, he had no real opportunity to know me or to know himself with his own desires and power. He tells me, "You're too abstract. I need you to be more real. I want to know you. Angels have no genitals. I want to make love not to my therapist or to a doctor or to an angel, but to you." He no longer sees me as an icon. He buries the plaster figure and resurrects me as a human being, as a gendered human being, as a woman. He begins a new conversation by telling me of his curiosity about the vagina, the mysteries of private space. In this conversation, his eye is touchingly linked with his penis. But in contrast to the way society often mocks men for being ruled by their anatomy, he tells me of the vulnerability he experiences when his penis is erect. He tells me of his wish to penetrate, but what's more, his longing to be held, shrouded, to be longed for, and to be belonged by my vagina. He's excited, and we're both poised and precariously unpoised between fear and desire. Dialogue has begun. It's the very human dialogue between telepathy and touch, disembodiment and embodiment, dissociation and free association. We've created a platform, a space between the mystical and the knowable, between the psychical and the material, and between each other for intimacy, challenge, inclusivity, and sharing. And yes, democratic relatedness.